You cannot receive that which you're not the vibrational frequency of. Okay, what did I just say? Welcome back. I'm Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy. Welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I am so happy to have you here. And yes, today we are stepping over the woo-woo line and I'm drawing you in. I know. You are a very linear-minded, type A, straight-laced, science-based dentist, woman, business owner. You've always followed the rules. And today I'm inviting you to just open your perspective to something very real that they don't teach us in dental school. But you cannot receive that which you are not the vibrational frequency of. Let me explain. I actually want to share this story with you because this is such a perfect example of this. This past weekend, I went to a Olivia Dean concert. By the way, it was lovely. If you don't know Olivia Dean's music, I highly encourage you to look it up. And no, I'm not getting paid by Olivia Dean. I just love her music. And my daughter, my 14-year-old, introduced me to it. She's a lovely, lovely, lovely human. And we went down to Boston to go to this Olivia Dean concert. And we had an Airbnb we stayed in. We went shopping on Newbury Street and went out to dinner. It was lovely. I spent one-on-one time with my 14-year-old and her best friend and her mother. It was phenomenal. We had a phenomenal time. And we felt like the luckiest humans ever. Everywhere we went, we met the nicest people and we kept commenting on it to each other. Every store we went into, it wasn't just the people who worked there, which of course, all of them were so friendly. I mean, they were asking us, personal questions. They were finding new clothing items for us to match or complimenting my daughter's earrings or just being so nice. And of course, all of that can be explained by good customer service. I mean, they made us feel amazing. Not in one store, not just on Newbury Street, but we went on other streets all around Boston. And we were like, what is happening in Boston? Everybody here is so good at customer service. But it wasn't just the people who were selling. It was the people in the store. People were stopping us on the street and telling my daughter, oh, I love your shoes. Or someone stopped me and asked me where my skirt was from. Guys, it was from Amazon. It was not a beautiful, gorgeous skirt, but someone literally stopped me. We went out for this delicious meal and someone came up to me afterwards and said, the way you and your daughter speak, I just had to let you know, it was just so beautiful to watch you communicate. I was shocked. People were just stopping us left, right, and center and being so sweet and so kind. Not really traditionally Bostonian, if you know what I mean. And we kept falling into luck. Really interesting things. We ordered some dinner one night with DoorDash and they didn't bring us our whole meal. So I called and said, oh, you guys left out these pieces. We got comped the entire meal for all of us. We got a full meal for free through DoorDash because they forgot one little thing. We went to the concert. We tried to find our seats. We couldn't find it. We had trouble. Turns out they had built the scaffolding and our row was missing. They upgraded us to floor seats. My daughter got so close, she almost touched Olivia Dean when she walked past us. These kinds of things kept happening to us all weekend. And we kept saying, oh my gosh, we are living this charmed life. We keep falling into luck. We kept getting upgrades. We kept getting compliments. We kept meeting the nicest people. People were stopping us on the street. It kept happening to us. Not in one place, everywhere we went. Now, hear my line again. You cannot receive that which you are not the vibrational frequency of. So many years in my life, I spent complaining, frustrated about the way things, quote unquote, were. And I hear this over and over and over again from so many people all over in society. We hear this narrative in dentistry, especially loud right now. Cannot find good help anymore. There's just such a dearth of hygienists. It's so hard to find people who will stay. And I will share with you that I have client after client after client that once they start paying attention to where their vibrational frequency is, the language that they're using when they speak to and about themselves, the thoughts they're thinking, how all of a sudden a year in, they turn around and I'll say, so how's it going with your team? And they'll say, oh my gosh, I have the dream team. They're amazing. These people are out there, my friends. And I'm inviting you to just start considering that you cannot attract that which you're not the vibrational frequency of. I'm going to give you another example. I think I've shared this story on the podcast before, but I want you to see it through this lens. When I came to America, when I was very young, I was 10 or 12 years old. We had nothing. When we immigrated to the States from South Africa, there was actually a limit on how much money we could bring. I think I could be quoting this wrong, but I do believe it was $10,000. Imagine my dad, prosthodontist, moving from South Africa in his 40s, 3 kids, and a wife, obviously, to America with $10,000 in the bank. Not a house, not a practice, 0 savings. That was it. He hadn't even started working. I mean, he didn't have a practice. He was going to teach at BU Dental School until he could find a practice to start, I don't know, working in, purchasing. I don't know, whatever his idea was at the time. $10,000. That is it. Guys, we had nothing. We were buying my first winter coat at Kmart. My first winter coat was from Kmart. My first winter boots, Kmart. And I remember feeling like the richest girl on earth. I had no reference, coming from South Africa. This was before the internet. I didn't know nice fancy boots or what even snow boots were. There was no snow on the ground in South Africa. In South Africa, our winter school uniform was shorts. And I was used to just wearing school uniforms. I had no idea about needing jeans. I never owned a pair of jeans before we moved to the States. And I'll never forget the wealth that started landing in my lap. There were the neighbors next to us. Suddenly, all the kids in their family got new ice skates. They had barely used their ice skates. They put them on the trash. And I walked next door and I saw all these brand new, in the boxes, guys, hadn't been used, but no longer fit my neighbors. They fit my feet perfectly. I couldn't believe it. Free, brand new bicycles. This was back in the day. I don't think people do this too often anymore, where people just put things on the trash. A whole new bicycle on my street. I got my first bicycle in America off the trash. Clean as a whistle, perfect, beautiful. I was living in the resonance of, oh my gosh, here I am, this girl who has been dreaming of coming to a place like America. I mean, I'd seen America on things like the A-Team. That was my reference for what America was like. So I had no concept. I just knew that it was fancier and more abundant and wealthier than South Africa at the time. And that was the resonance I was approaching life with. Things were just flowing to me. Opportunities, possibilities were endless for me. Everything felt so abundant. And I felt like the richest person ever. And I held that perspective on money actually as a beautiful gift, something I'm so grateful for, continued throughout my life. I've always had this uncanny perception that wealth and abundance just flows to me. And it's been such a phenomenal belief because it's been at the core of me taking really risky business moves, making crazy ideas and dreams come true because I haven't felt the scarcity mindset around money. And it has paid out over and over and over again, especially in business. but also in the wealth of so many other things like friendships and opportunities. And I'm sharing this with you not to boast at all, because trust me, I am not perfect. And I share so much of that here on the podcast of how much I've had to overcome. But when it's come to a concept around wealth and abundance and opportunity, my mindset has always been, oh my gosh, it just flows to me. And this weekend was a beautiful example of it. The more we talked about it with my daughter and her friend and her friend's mom, we kept noticing, oh my gosh, we keep finding these lucky things. Lucky things keep happening to us. And guess what happened? Lucky things kept happening to us. It kept proving itself over and over and over again. And this concept of you cannot receive that which you're not the vibrational frequency of is such a really interesting perspective. Because when you're living in the mindset of victimization, when you feel like things are constantly happening to you, it comes true. Let's take this from a purely psychological perspective. Psychology shows us through the perspective of your reticular activating system. It's a part of your brain. The reticular activating system is responsible for deleting and narrowing down and grouping all the billions of bits of information that come into your awareness at any one moment. And by the way, even your subconscious awareness. In other words, we have 11 billion bits per second, by the way, of information through sound and light and visual input and sensory, all the sensory inputs. 11 billion bits, and your brain can only process 40 bits at a time. Not 40,000, 40 out of 11 billion. This is where the reticular activating system comes into play. The reticular activating system says, okay, tell me what to filter out. This is why when you're learning something at first, it feels overwhelming because you're trying to consume so much information at once. But pretty soon, your brain starts to figure out, okay, I can delete this information. I can delete this information. I can ignore this information. It's why sometimes you get on the road and you kind of wake up. It's a part of why you wake up at work and you go, oh my gosh, I don't even remember driving here. Because your reticular activating system is like, dude, you've got this. You know how to get to work. I don't need to show you every single car passing by. I don't need to make you aware of so many things because you've done this 1,000 times before. But the reticular activating system only shows you what it thinks you want it to see or hear or receive. So you start paying greater attention to the things you're looking for. In my program, Radical Happiness for Practitioners, I share this I call it the Orange Jeep experiment. The Orange Jeep experiment, very simply explained, is when you're looking for something, you see more of it. I tell the story of when I was wanting an orange Jeep, and I'd never seen someone driving an orange Jeep before. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be everyone's going to see the orange Jeep driving through town. There's the orthodontist in the orange Jeep. And I kind of put it on the back burner for a few weeks. And I thought, let me just think about this orange Jeep. I started seeing orange Jeeps everywhere. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I thought no one drove orange Jeeps. Now I'm seeing them everywhere. Or when I was pregnant, maybe this happened to you. Suddenly everyone was pregnant and there were pregnant things happening all over the place. And we sometimes excuse this because we tell ourselves, oh, my phone is listening, or there's an algorithm that I'm buying into or playing into. But beyond your phone, you're not imagining it. It's your reticular activating system that starts to see things. You can easily play this game with yourself. Just start playing the game. It used to happen to me in the office all the time, where we'd have on Thursdays, we'd say, oh my gosh, all the emergencies happen on Thursday. Everything goes wrong on Thursday because I didn't work on Fridays. What happened? Emergencies happen on Thursdays. Disproportionately to what we thought was happening on a Tuesday. Or I'd have a week where I'd say, oh my gosh, I am only seeing third molar impactions this week. Or everybody has a broken bracket on their central incisor. And wouldn't you know, they'd show up. A very big portion of that is just your reticular activating system highlighting that thing. So when you go home at night, stressing about everything that went wrong, your mind starts feeding you, and this went wrong, and this went wrong, and this went wrong, and this went wrong. Or when you tell yourself, there's no good help out there anymore, it's really hard to find a good hygienist, you start noticing, and there's an article about it, and then my friend mentioned it, and come to think of it, I'm having trouble hiring a hygienist. And remember when the last hygienist we hired, took us about 4 months? Your brain starts looking for the evidence to support what you're looking for. So that's from a very psychological explanation, very science-based explanation. All right, my friends, I am interrupting your episode to bring to you some extremely exciting news because at the Business of Happiness, we are doing something we have never done before because we know that you are doing such amazing things every single day. We know you are literally putting smiles on children's faces on a daily basis. And you have spent so many years giving and taking care of and serving and holding space for everyone else, not just your patients, but your team and your family. And it is exhausting, and it is time to come back to what is true to you. And that is why we are offering the True to Me method. We've never done this before, and this is the core, the foundational method, the framework that is at the core of everything we offer is the True to Me method. And we're putting it in a beautiful little package, a self-led course for you, a mini 4-step course that you can listen to on the way to work. It is going to change the way you see yourself. It is going to put you back in touch with what is true to you. Because what I know is, up until this point, what we've been taught in dentistry is to outsource our choices and our decisions to the expectations of everyone around us. What do my patients need? What does my accountant say I need to do? What does my family think? What do my colleagues expect of me? And this 4-step method brings you back to you. This is the core of finding fulfillment and freedom and satisfaction and enjoyment and living your life to the fullest. So check out truetomemethod.com. Easy to remember, truetomemethod.com, and use the code POD10, POD10, to get a 10% discount as a podcast listener. Let me tell you, this is amazing. We have already put an enormous savings. It's usually $9.97. We're bringing it down to $4.97. And with the pod 10% savings, you get another 10% off. This is a no-brainer. There are CE credits, there's community, there's a downloadable companion guide, there are monthly check-ins. This is amazing. You cannot afford to miss it. Check out the truetomemethod.com and use the code POD10. I am sending you so much love. You deserve to remember what is true for you. Now, back to the episode. But I want you also to feel into the energetics of it, because notice how you approach life when energetically you are emitting a certain frequency. It's like old school radio. When you wanted to listen to 94.9, you had to dial your radio to 94.9. Otherwise, you got a different station. You got the country station. Or if you weren't careful, you got the AM radio if you were really off on your frequency. You had to dial your frequency in to receive. That frequency was always there. Those sound waves were always in the air. It's not that they didn't exist. Those 11 billion bits were flying by you at any one moment. It's when you tuned to that one that you actually received it. That's a beautiful analogy here. Notice how this weekend with my daughter, we tuned into this beautiful frequency of just feeling lucky. man, the universe was smiling on us. We were meeting such nice people. Were there moments there where maybe we met a person who wasn't so nice? Maybe. I didn't even notice it. I don't know if you heard me say that when we ordered dinner, they left something out of our order. Didn't even matter. I didn't even notice it because I just felt so lucky. It wasn't even a big deal. I was like, oh, okay, let me just call them and ask for something and just let them know they left something out. And boom, we landed in luck, a whole free meal for all four of us. I didn't even register that we possibly were unlucky because they left out a part of our order. Notice how the frequency wasn't even available to me. I didn't even notice the person who maybe gave me a side eye because of my skirt, or maybe thought I was too loud when I was laughing at my daughter's joke in the restaurant. I was only focusing on how lucky we were and how nice the people we were that we were meeting. Isn't that interesting? Think now for a moment how you show up in the dental practice when you're aligned with a specific frequency. When you're in the frequency of, I am so supported. I have so much support all around me. I am so grateful for the team that I do have right now. I feel supported in the people in my life. I want you to notice the support that shows up for you. I want you to notice how when you show up with that energy, you actually attract more of it. When you show up with the energy of, I have to do this all on my own. The buck stops here. I'm responsible for everything. When things fall apart, they always come to me. Very much that will be the energy you attract. I know because I did this for a very long time in my life. I felt that way. Felt like everyone took me for granted. Like I was constantly being walked all over. I called myself naive for a very long time. And guess what? It played out in my life. It did. You cannot receive that which you are not the vibrational equivalent of. And this is where trust comes in, because shifting that expectation, shifting that perspective can feel heavy and arduous. Because when you've been living in a certain mindset, when you've been living in a certain belief structure for a very long time, I'm the one that everyone takes advantage of, and I have so much evidence of it. See, my mother does it. My sister-in-law does it. The rep for that dental rep does it. My assistants walk all over me. When you have been living on that energetic frequency for decades, it's not so easy to suddenly shift to everybody supports me all the time. So allow yourself to shift incrementally, but give yourself the permission to actually start impacting and changing the way the world operates around you. I'll never forget. This is really interesting. And this is a little side story. We were looking at schools for my oldest daughter when she was going into middle school. So she's now in college. But I remember we were looking at schools. And I remember saying, Maine is very homogenous. And that is very true. We do not have a lot of diversity in Maine. And I remember feeling like this is a real downside. I'm trying to find a school for her that has more diversity. And it's just super limited here. This is where we live. And I kept thinking, I'm looking for diversity. I would never have expected to find diversity unless I opened my mind to the possibility of it. If I had gone in with this idea of diversity has to look a certain way, and that is impossible to find in Maine, I would have absolutely been proven right. But we found a school that had incredible diversity because I left the possibility for that open. I said out loud to my husband, we had this conversation, I am so excited to find a school that has greater diversity here in Maine. And guess what? We found it. It was because we were already living in that resonance. We were attracting that which we were already in alignment with. This is such an underrated practice, such an underrated skill set. And I'm calling it a skill because it is something that's practiced. It's not something you're just born with. In fact, we're sometimes born with the opposite in terms of our parents constantly preparing us by thinking, if I can keep aware of everywhere something could go wrong, I'm preparing myself for it. Even in dental school, we get really taught this. Like, how do you anticipate the problems before they happen? But no one tells you that when you anticipate problems, you actually attract them. The truth is, you can navigate any problem that comes your way. Notice I did exactly that this weekend. DoorDash brought the order, it had something missing. I picked up the phone, I called, I let them know. If I had worried about, what if DoorDash leaves out a portion of the order? Maybe we shouldn't go with this company. What if... Notice how much additional stress and overwhelm I'm attracting to myself. And I'm using this as a very simplistic example that is directly translatable into dentistry. Directly. And it's so, so beautiful to witness outside. I love it when there are, beautiful examples that show up in our lives. So I'm inviting you this week to play with this orange Jeep experiment. I do this all the time in my Radical Happiness for Practitioners program, which, by the way, I'm going to give a little plug to here. Our next cohort is starting in September 14th. If you have been listening to this podcast for a while and you are fascinated with what I teach here on the podcast, you're going to love the Radical Happiness for Practitioners program. So I'll leave a link in the show notes. It is absolutely a game changer for women dentists who are experiencing burnout or overwhelm or feeling unfulfilled and unhappy and stressed out in dentistry. It will change your business, your life, and your happiness. Enough about that. If you want to play the Orange Jeep experiment just here on the podcast, I'm going to invite you to just do this week. Do it in a silly sense. On Monday morning or whatever morning you get to work, I invite you to just say out loud, not because incanting it to the universe is more powerful, although I believe it is, but it really creates clarity when we speak something out loud. Clarity to your reticular activating system, clarity to yourself, and then it also add a little woo-woo in there. I am excited to see more of, and just complete that sentence. Let it be something silly. I'm excited to see more of purple Crocs. I'm excited to see more of people grateful for the work that I do. I'm excited to see more people who bring in donuts. I mean, literally choose something and then start looking for it as it happens during the week. You're going to be amazed at how you attract a frequency. Now, this is a little two-parter. You announce, you claim what you're looking to see more of. You could even do it about dogs. I'm excited to see more Shar-Peis. And then let go of needing to control the outcome. Let go of needing to insist on what that looks like, because you might see Shar-Peis, not actual Shar-Peis walking into your office. You might see them on the cover of a book that you never noticed on your bookshelf. Or a friend might send you a video with a Shar-Pei in it. Or you might be walking down the street and see a sign that says Shar-Pei. Just notice, but try not to limit the way you think that comes to you, if that makes any sense. Notice this weekend, I didn't say, wow, I'm so lucky I get free meals all the time. Although that could be one. I just said, I feel so lucky. Great things keep happening. We keep bumping into wonderful people, really friendly, generous people. And then the universe just brought us more of it. So I'm excited for you to actually play this game, because not because I want you to have more sharp A's in your life, but because I would love for you to see the power of aligning to the frequency of that which you want. And let this be an awareness of what frequency you have been aligning to up until now. If there have been things in your life you're not that thrilled about, notice how frequently you buy into that frequency. I did this as well in my life. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have any friends who actually know me deeply, who I actually feel really close to. I don't really get along with women that well. I literally felt that way, and the universe kept giving me more evidence for it. And then I shifted that perspective a few years ago, and literally the abundance of incredible women in my life that I align with so strongly, who know me so deeply, I could be brought to tears because I aligned with that frequency. So I'm going to say this line one more time. And I'm going to invite you to start playing with this highly underrated, scientifically proven, beautiful phenomenon. You cannot attract that which you are not the vibrational frequency of. And what if you started paying acute, intentional awareness to what you are attracting? And can you choose what you want to see instead of what you don't want to see? Because when you feel good, that is when you can do good. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.